He's the one you can lean on. He don't change, he stays the same. Won't find a better reason, no. So come tap in, just listen. And bring a friend, let's spread this vision. Let's talk kingdom. He's the one you can lean on. He don't change, he stays the same. Won't find a better reason, no. So come tap in, just listen. And bring a friend, let's spread this vision.
And shalom to everyone. We're so glad to have you with us. It is a great time to be saved. Remember, Zion, if you look up at the top and you don't see your time zone or you don't see your flag, well, if you're in America, you're good. But if it's not your time zone, please come back during your time zone. This is for the East Coast. Anything Central, Mountain, and or Pacific time will be happening at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please comply. We ask you and thank you very, very much. All right, everyone, we're going to get started. Prepare our hearts to move right into this. Again, if it's not your time zone, please come back during your time zone. We want you to understand this is important. If you are in the room and you are here for the feast of Chag Ha-Matzot, please come up on platform. I'm sending everyone an invitation. If you are not here for the feast of Chag Ha-Matzot, I will have to remove you late as we move forward. So please take your microphones and come up. There is a reason we have to do this based on some technical issues we just came aware of. So again, we bless Yahweh for you. Please accept the invitations we give you to come up on platform. Thank you so very much. All right, we're blessing Yahweh today for all he is and who he is in our lives. The hour has come and there is so much more that goes on in this time. And we want to make sure that everyone who is a part of this realizes and understands the significance of this as we press forward into those things that are in fact Yahweh, who is our Elohim. Well, here we are yet again in the times of he who has given us life, he who has given us hope, he who has given us strength, he who has given us peace, and we bless him in this hour and in this day. Father, we thank you for the hope and peace that you grace us with. We honor you because of who you are and why you are. There is literally none like you in all of the earth. And we thank you for being our Savior and our Redeemer and our hope and our peace and our joy and our strength. There is none like you, literally in all of the earth. So we bow in reverence of who you are and why you are. And we ask you to grace us with your presence and your spirit. In this place today, you reign supreme. You are holier, righteous, and you are our Elohim. We bless you now because of why you are in our lives. Give us the spirit of you. Give us the peace of you. Give us the strength of you. Give us the joy of you in this moment of time. There is none greater than you today. Shemech Chag Ha-Matzot. The glory belongs to you, the honor belongs to you, the praise belongs to you. For you alone are worthy of honor, dominion, might, and power. Blessings and spiritual blessings we seek in you in this day. There is none like you. You've given us all things to know you and to embrace you as should be. To you now we bless and exalt you. Grace us by your presence. Grace us by your spirit. Grace us in your joy. In the mighty name of Yahshua HaMashiach, we say, we pray, Amen. Well, Zion, we have come into another great day of his presence, to know what Yahweh would want of us and how he would have us to operate in this season. Unfortunately, we had some technical glitches that kept us from coming in on time, and we have entered in 15 minutes ago into Sabbath. Therefore, we bring the call. We make the clarion call. Welcome to Chag Ha-Matzot. We give Yahweh high praise in this time and in this season for what great things he has been and is unto us. In this moment of time, we look forward to what he will and intends to do for us, through us, and in us in this wonderful day and hour. Well, this is yours truly, Apostle V.W. Jones Sr., whose name should mean nothing with respect to this time belonging and dedicating to Elohim. If you are in this moment, we want you to remember that there is an actual compliance to why we are here today. And those compliances we will bring forward to you even now with regards to what Yahweh has instructed us. The book of Leviticus, chapter and number 23. Let us take our hearts and minds there. If you are on Clubhouse, we're glad to have you. If you are on Facebook, we're delighted to have you. YouTube, glad to have you. Make sure that you are in your time zone. If you are from the West Coast, every time zone except the West Coast should be in this space. Central, Mountain, and West Coast should not be in this space as of yet. If you are East Coast, you're good. If you are South Africa, Vietnam, Kenya, Ghana, Uganda, welcome, 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 welcome. UK, welcome. We have a lot to discuss today. I promise you, you will need to pay attention. The one thing that Yahweh wants and has to have us do for these feast seasons is to pay attention, to read his word in the day of his feast. That is the purpose for what we call the Mikra, the Kodesh Mikra. The Mikra is the convocation. The Kodesh is the holy convocation. And we are in the day that we know to be a Moedim. That is a high holy day of Yahweh. It is a Shabbat. Leviticus chapter and number 23 brings a great deal of clarity for us to this space. Let us read. If you're in Clubhouse, you can come over to VWJ Ministries on Facebook, VWJ Ministries on YouTube, and read from my Bibles, but you shouldn't have that problem. You should all have your own Bibles open right now. I want to make this housekeeping issue clean, very clear right now. You may, in fact, this group for the 10 o'clock session, participate over there as well for the gathering of the word, to keep your mind focused on the word during a time Yahweh wants us in the word. So after we're done this service, you can join the 10 p.m. service, Eastern Standard Time. That will be the West Coast service, and Yahweh be praised for your attendance. So in Leviticus chapter 23, we want to be very clear about what Yahweh has done. He tells us very clearly, Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, concerning the feast of Yahweh, our Elohim, he says, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Even these are my feasts. Can we get everyone to just take a moment, get to your phone right now, hit your mute button and proclaim Pesach on the count of three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. It is the day that Yahweh has given unto us to proclaim. He says in these words next now, he says, verse 4, these are the feasts of Yahweh, even the holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. Verse 5 is in the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahweh's Pesach. On the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh, who is our Elohim. Watch this closely. He then goes on to state, it is Yahweh's Pesach. Now, on the 15th day, we just finished Pesach. For those of you also in a housekeeping event, those of you who now have your lamb, you should not have any lamb left over whether you've eaten it all or you've destroyed it by burning it, because you have now entered into the next Shabbat. This is why they took the body of Yeshua HaMashiach down off the cross before the Sabbath ended, because that meat had to be destroyed before the next day. So you have officially entered at sundown on the 5th of Tuesday into the Gregorian calendar day called Nisan 15. That meat must not be eaten. It was for this day, this cause only. I hope that that makes sense to everyone, and I hope that you understand that. So now you know housekeeping is done. You are now entering into Chag Ha-Matzot. Look closely at Leviticus chapter number 23. We will move into this now. Leviticus chapter 23 states on verse 6, the 15th day of the same month. Come off one more time for me. Say, we're in the 15th day. Say, we're in the 15th day. And in the 15th day of the same month is now the feast of Chag Ha-Matzot, the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh. Listen, 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. Verse 7 says, in the first day you shall have an holy convocation. Today is your convocation. You are convocating right now. But you shall offer an offering. Verse 7 says, in the first day you shall have an holy convocation, a Chodesh Mikra. You shall do no servile work therein, but you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. In the 7th day also is an Chodesh Mikra, a holy convocation. You'll do no servile work that time, that day either. The 7th day of this particular time will be next Tuesday, April the 11th at sundown. So from sundown on the 11th until sundown on the 12th, you are in a holy convocation. It is the last day of this feast season's convocation and feast. Verse 9 says, and Yahweh then spake unto Moshe and spake unto the children of Israel to say, when you come into the land which I will give you, you're going to reap a harvest thereof, and then you're going to bring your sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priests. All right. Now let's look clearly at why we are here. Many of you have been understanding that the feast seemed to be some unique element, but yet we can't really feel the feeling of it, because we don't quite know what it is that Yahweh is doing, and it doesn't seem to be anything exciting. And if it's your first few times, you might feel that way. I want to let you know that honoring the feast is about obedience to the prescription. It's about obedience to the commandment. You're not going to feel wooey gooey all the time. You're going to probably feel a little bit wondering what to do next. However, when you begin to understand what you do in these 3 days, you are dedicating, you are consecrating, you are giving over your life to Elohim for 3 days. He wants you to be seated. He wants you to sit down. He wants you to know him. Be still and know that I am. What we do oftentimes, which is very prevalent within Christendom, is we have what I call Christian ADHD and Christian ADD. We can't sit still. We always got to do something, even though he says, be still. So we say we'll keep the feast, being still, not honoring anything other than him, is being still. But we find it in Christendom, even those who've been a few years in the kingdom still think we can do whatever we want to do on his holy day. That's something that Yahweh wants us to do away with. Sometimes we can't just sit still. We got to make sure we're always doing something and try to be religious about it. Now we want to go and preach and teach and do all these things. But Yahweh says, be still and let my word fill your heart. Purposefully, intentionally drink my word in. If you will honor the Shabbat by not doing your own pleasure on my holy day, and if you will call the Shabbat a delight, if you will call the Shabbat Kodesh, if you will call the Shabbat honorable, and honor him by not doing your own pleasure on his holy day, nor finding your own thing to do, nor speaking your own words, then you delight in Yahweh. So now let's learn the story of why we're here in the feast season of Pesach under the day of Chag Ha-Matzot. Leviticus has given us the instruction and the commandment. He's also given us what we are to do. We give our lambs. So at this moment, before we get into the storyline of what we do in Exodus, we want you to prepare your hearts to begin now to understand that Yahweh has asked in the 15th, if you're looking on the screen, and the 21st of Nisan, you are to render your lamb per day. You don't do both of them today. You do the one today, and then on the 21st, which is next Tuesday at sundown, you do that lamb then. Your lamb, as you already know, has been monetized out because you don't herd, you don't have flocks. Your monetization of that lamb is at the lower end of the scale that they have right now for the shepherds, and for the butchers is 330 for the weight, for the year, for the specificities of the kosher and or the blemishness, no blemish on the lamb. There are the specificities. Your lamb is 330. Go now, and that you might know where to go and how to do it. Get yourself found by getting your lamb in now as we read the Torah, because whenever you came to the actual tabernacle at the time that Yahweh would render, you had to comply first. When you came in order to read, you brought your sacrifice with you, whether it was your bulls, whether it was your lamb, whether it was your goat or your turtle dove. You did not come in to sit in the tabernacle or the sanctuary of the saints and have your sacrifice in your hand, tied to your arm, a live kicking bull, a live kicking goat, a live kicking lamb, a live kicking what have you. You first took it to the priest, and then you progressed back to the congregation of the saints, and you prepared to read, as is standard for any and all Moedim. So right now, before we begin to read, we have the reasoning. We've given you the commandment. Now we give you the charge for your compliance. Bring your offering and take it. You may go to vwjministries.com if you're on Clubhouse and you're here because this is your lifestyle. You don't have to leave that page. You can go to Clubhouse, hit the PTR, go down into my profile. At the bottom of our profile is a ministry link. Hit that link, which is a contributions tab. It will help you make your contribution from right where you are. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, go to vwjministries.com. Hit the yellow donations button at the bottom on the right-hand side and make your contributions. For those of you who make them through your apps, you have information scrolling on the screens for those apps as well. If this is something you tuned into because a friend invited you and you don't know why you're here, this is a good time to have your exit, because the rest of our compliance will probably not go well with what you believe you understand about your salvation and the kingdom of Elohim. But if you're here, and you're here for the lifestyle of what we know as, in fact, Chag Ha-Matzot, we come to comply. Can I get everybody to go to their microphones? Everybody who's here to comply, I want you to get your fingertips ready right now. Hold up on your contribution, but I want you to make this type in the box, in your thread, and or make this conversation piece, this statement, by hitting your mute button. And I want y'all to say this: I'm here to comply with Yahweh. Make that comment. All right, so while we're reading, you guys go and get your contributions set up and do it now. We will be making sure that the word of Elohim is read. Follow me to the book of Exodus, chapter and number 12. We've just finished with what we know to be the feast of Pesach. We've had the lamb. Our lamb was killed. Our lamb was bled. When our lamb bled out, the blood was swiped on the doorpost. We're going to read the Torah, which is the recommended compliance with any Moedim. Now, this particular time, we read the storyline that we're a part of. Our memory here is to remember what Yahweh had done for Israel while they were in Egypt. All right, I'm going to give you more word. Let's go. In the book of Shemot, chapter number 12, we find now at verse number 14. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial. You shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. Verse 15 says, 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven from out of your houses. For whosoever eats leaven from that day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off out of Israel. Verse 16, and in the first day there shall be an holy convocation. And in the 7th day there shall be an holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, the first day nor the 7th day, save that which every man must eat, and that only may be done for you. So to be clear about this and understand the instructions of these next 7 days, you are now a part of. The first day, which is today until sundown tomorrow, and next Tuesday on your calendar this year, from sundown Tuesday to sundown Wednesday, you are in holy convocation. You don't go to school. You don't go to work. You don't do any servile work. You have no services done to you, and you serve no one. This is the command and the prescription of Yahweh. But then he says that when you are in that Kodesh Mikra and that Moedim, you may in fact cook your meal. That's really all you need to be worried about doing. That which you need to eat, get to eat, but do not eat leaven at all. That means no beer, no vinegar, nothing with yeast in it, very funny with your creams, no ice creams. Don't eat any leaven, not just in the bread. If your cereal has leaven in it, can't have it. If it's got yeast in it, you can't have it. Now, I want to be very specific and clear here as we work on what we talk about. Yahweh has a very, very interesting way of making things clear. And what he does with it is he gives us what we need to do and embrace, because it puts us in a real interesting space. His words are clear. His words are true. His words are our instructions. Now watch this clearly as we move into the passages of Shemot 12:16. And the first day of that month, look at it closely, first day of that holy convocation, and in the 7th day of that holy convocation, you do no manner of work. Verse 17, you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in that selfsame day I have brought you and your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. Verse 19, 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. Here is the reading of the Torah. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all of your habitations shall you eat only unleavened bread. Verse 21. Then Moshe called for the elders of Israel. He said unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your families, and kill the Pesach. Verse 22. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at that door of his house until the morning. For Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood upon the lintels, and when he sees the blood upon the lintels and the 2 side posts, Yahweh will, in fact, pass over. Now, I want you guys to get this, because it's extremely important to know what Yahweh does and how he does it. He goes on to make the statement so that you hear clearly what it is you are to do and how it is to be done. You have to have the blood on both the lintel and the upper doorpost of that space. You cannot just have it on the lintel. You cannot just have it on the posts. It must be on the doorposts and the lintel. Somebody say you got to do the whole thing. Give him what he wants.
You got to do the whole thing.
For verse 23 says that Yahweh will pass through and smite the Egyptians. Yahweh will pass through. Yahweh, look, verse 23. I want you to read it. Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on both the two side posts and the lintel, Yahweh will pass over the door. Who's passing over, y'all?
Yahweh.
And he will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you. Now, I want you guys to understand this about Elohim, and repeat this with me as loud as you can. He talks about here the shakath, all right? He will not allow for the decay or the ruin. He will not allow for the perishing or the spoiler or the corrupt to come into you. Let me be very clear. I've been teaching this for quite a few decades. The destroyer is not an angel. There is no death angel. Repeat this with me. Yahweh is both life and death. Do y'all understand that? Yahweh is both life and death. He is life. He is death. Thus, the idea and the concept that you all must embrace and understand is that Yahweh chose when you would live and Yahweh chose when you would depart. It is appointed unto man once to die, and after death is the judgment. To be absent from this body when Yahweh comes to get you is to be present with him because he came and got you. There is no death angel that went into the house. His essence is coming to pass through the house, and the element of him, just like Elohim is God Father, Elohim is God Son, Elohim is God the Holy Spirit. Elohim is also the creator of evil. Elohim is the creator of life, and Elohim is the creator of death. Elohim sets up and he destroys. If you don't believe that, read the book of Ecclesiastes. When Elohim says he'll pass over the house if he sees the blood, that means and indicts, let me put this on screen so y'all can see my face on this. That means and indicts that if Elohim is going to pass over when he sees the blood, where's the blood, guys? Anybody know where the blood is?
On the lintels and the doorposts.
On the lintels and the doorposts. You can't just have it on one doorpost and the lintel. You can't just have it on the lintel and then the threshold on the floor at the bottom. You can't just put the blood on the side. You can't even put the blood on the door. You must put the blood on the lintel and the doorposts of that space in which you are going to be in. Now, I want everyone who is in the room, if you're here for the purpose of this lifestyle, please take the microphone and come up. I do not and cannot tolerate for anyone to be down without a microphone. If you do not want a microphone, please dismiss yourself from the space. We'll be sending a microphone to you. If you're here for the fellowship and the lifestyle, please know that this is what we do. This is a very high holy day. This is not a time for guests. This is not a time for peekaboos and seeky-hoos. And this is not a time for individuals who want to sit on the wall. If you want to sit on the wall, please go do it elsewhere today. And I mean that in the authority of my apostolic mantle. So please, if you're here, take the microphone I'm extending to you and come up on platform. I'm grateful for your time. Thank you so very much. Please comply. Compliance is everything. If you're too busy and you're doing something right now, then you're not paying attention to the word. And I promise you what we're about to share with you is very important. Please accept the microphone and the invitation to come up on platform. Thank you very much. So what we have and what we know now are what Yahweh wants us to do and what Yahweh wants us to understand. He passed over. Who passed over when he saw the blood?
Yahweh.
So if Yahweh saw the blood and he passed over, what would Yahweh do if he did not see the blood? Would he pass through the house?
Yes.
Yes.
Who would pass through the house? So who passed over the house? So if Yahweh passed over the house and not passed through the house, if he did pass through the house, would the firstborn of every beast and every person die in that space?
Yes.
Is that an angel or is that Yahweh? So Yahweh passed over the house, and Yahweh intended to pass through the house if he did not see the blood. Somebody say amen.
Amen.
Don't be confused and have nothing and anything to actually conflict you on that. So now he goes on to indicate, watch this closely. Verse 23 is where we are. Let me look at the Bible, look it up. Are y'all with me, YouTube, Facebook? Y'all still there? This is going to get deep, y'all. Don't leave this. We got a few minutes to do it, so y'all better pay attention. This is going to be fire. I promise you. I promise you. Make sure you get your lambs in. If you're just getting in, go get your lamb in. Go to vwministries.com, yellow button on the bottom, or wherever you need to find your app that you use, Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, whatever you do, get your contribution in. If you're not doing it here, you're doing it somewhere else, make sure you get it in at the somewhere else you're doing it. All right. So verse number 23 goes on to say and read, for Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians. Can y'all say that again for me? For Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood upon the lintel and the two side posts of the doors, Yahweh will pass over the door and will not will not suffer the destroyer. That's an element of him. Elohim is the creator of both life and death. He is the father of both evil and good. He is the father of everything on the planet. It is his essence. There was not an angel that went through the house to destroy. The destroyer is an element of him. Verse 24, and you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to you and your sons forever. Verse 25, I'm in Shemot. I'm in Exodus 12:25 for those of you who are coming in late and have this lifestyle. Verse 25 says, and it shall come to pass when you be come to the land which Yahweh will give unto you, according as he has promised, that you shall keep this service. And now come to pass when your children shall ask and say, what means by this service? That they shall say, it is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Pesach, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians. I'm sorry, who smote the Egyptians? Was it a death angel or was it he? So it's not, he doesn't say a death angel, right? He's very clear about this, right?
Right.
So he smote the Egyptians and he delivered our houses, and the people bowed the head and they worshiped. Verse 28, and the children of Israel went away and did just as Yahweh had commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. Verse number 29 says, and it came to pass that at midnight, Yahweh smote all, Yahweh smote. Who smote?
Yahweh.
Did it say a destroyer did it?
No.
But you know that Yahweh is the destroyer and he is the life giver. He is the preserver and the taker of life. He is the scheduler and the exhauster of life. He is the one who is the appointment. So Yahweh smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. Verse 30, Pharaoh rose up. Somebody say rose up, say rose up, say rose up. In that night, he and all of his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called unto Moshe and Aaron by night and said, rise up, get out from among my people. Go forth. Somebody say, go forth. Go forth, my people. Say, go forth. Speak to yourself. Go forth. He said, go forth, both you and your children of Israel, and go and serve Yahweh as you said you were going to do. Oh, you know what? Don't leave nothing. Take your flocks, take your herds, and be gone. And bless me also. Verse 33, the Egyptians were urgent. Listen to this. The Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. For they said, we all will be dead men. Verse 34 says, and the people took their dough before it was leavened. They took their kneading troughs, being bound up in their clothes, they put them upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moshe. And they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. And the people gave, and Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Y'all get ready to come to your microphones. Get ready to come to your microphones. Get ready to come to your microphones. And Yahweh gave favor. Exodus 12, Shemot 12, verse 36. Get ready to come to your microphones. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. Now, I want to read this verse one more time because this is very, very important. It's imperative you get this. And Yahweh gave people favor in the sight of the Egyptians who just wanted them out, so that the Egyptians lent unto them the things, whatever they would need. Now, can anybody do me a favor and read that last line of 36? Can anybody read that last sentence of 36?
Rogers.
I want everybody off their microphones. I want the entire congregation to read this. When I stop, you all pick up and read. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto Israel such as they required. Come off your mics, go. Come on, one more time. And they what did
so that they lent unto them such things as
listen, read what I asked you to and read it together. Y'all not dysfunctional. I want y'all to read it together. When I count 3, I want y'all to say it as a team. Unity is everything. Watch this. 1, 2, 3. And they spoiled them, right?
Yes. Yes.
Thank y'all very much. You can put your phones on back on mute. And they spoiled the Egyptians. The Israelis spoiled the Egyptians. They spoiled the Egyptians. Israel spoiled the Egyptians. I want y'all to remember that. Hold on to it, because there's much more we need to discuss about that. And the children of Israel then journeyed from Ramses to Sukkoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men beside the children. All right. The Bible then goes on to let us know what took place from that point. Now, I want you to realize that while we are here, this meal of Pesach, now having the day ended, I want you to realize that when Yahweh does what he does, he did all of this in one day. Remember when I explained to you all that Moshe, or the Bible, Torah, explained to you that Moshe and Aaron were called to Pharaoh. Everybody pay attention. The first thing I want to do is show you where your blessing is in keeping the feast. Y'all want to know what your blessing look like?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes. Yes.
We gonna need to participate because ain't nobody working today. Ain't nobody should be babysitting. Everybody should be sitting here in front of your thing, listening, watching. So everybody should be voiced up. This place should be filled with agreement for his word. All right. So we all want to know where the blessing of Pesach comes from. I'm going to read that to you, but I want to share this with you as we go along. Now, watch this very closely. The Bible says in the book of Genesis or Exodus chapter number 12, he lets us know that he gave them instructions. They would tell them about it. It came to pass in verse 29 that Yahweh had done what he was doing. As he done that, verse 30 says, Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all of his servants, and all the Egyptians, because there was a great cry, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. Now, I want to go back up here very quickly to another passage so you guys can get this, because there's some really crazy doctrines going on out here, and I don't want you guys to ever have to fight this once you've learned it, okay? Go with me to Exodus chapter 22. Exodus 12, verse 22. Same chapter, verse 22. Yahweh gave a command, right? He told them that you shall take a bunch of hyssop and you shall dip it in the blood that is in the basin, right? He said, strike the lintel and the two side posts with the blood, right? That is in the basin, right? And then he says, none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning. Y'all read that? Are y'all reading that?
Yes. Yes.
So you say they can't go out of the house until the morning. Now, I want to share this with you because there's a lot of stuff that's out there. I want you to catch this. They can't go out of the house until the morning. But let's go now down to verse 30. I want y'all to remember this before I hit verse 30 because it's very important. The lamb was to be killed in the 14th day. The lamb was to be cooked. The lamb was to be eaten. The blood was to be applied. At midnight, so whenever sundown was, the killing of the lamb, the blood, the bleed, the cook, and then at midnight, Yahweh came. This isn't a matter of let's just say sundown was at 7 o'clock. They killed the lamb, fixed the lamb, and was preparing to eat the lamb. So by the time midnight would come, a roasted lamb in that day, without the conveniences we have, they didn't have air fryers. They had to cook this on the rotisserie. They had to put it in the grill, right? So once they put the blood on the door and they began to eat the lamb, they were not to go out of that house until the morning. Okay? Now, here's the interesting thing. So by 12 midnight, the Bible says in verse 30, Yahweh came through Egypt. Did it say midnight?
Yes.
I'm gonna need your participation. Come on, we all supposed to be together here. Don't get lost. I want y'all to get this. This is gonna be so revelatory for you. So at midnight, watch this. Elohim turned things around. Y'all gonna leave it right there because y'all been singing it different. Y'all been singing it different. At midnight, listen, God is gonna turn it around. It's gonna work in your favor. Listen. I want y'all to catch it. Y'all been singing it wrong. Y'all been singing something else. But look at what really happened at midnight. Help me, Ruach, get through this. I got a long night to go. He says that at midnight, Pharaoh, look at verse 30. Come on, look at the word. Let me read the Torah to you so you don't think I'm tripping. So the Bible says in verse 29, and it came to pass that at midnight, Yahweh smote the firstborn. Somebody say he gonna turn it around. Hold on, I'm sorry. I left y'all without the Bible. Y'all gonna learn today. You're gonna learn tonight. Listen, he says, it came to pass that at midnight, Yahweh smote the firstborn in the land of Egypt, the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on the throne, to the firstborn of the captive in the dungeon. He took even the firstborn of the cattle. Say, that's all mine. 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 Look at verse 30. The Bible then says, and Pharaoh rose up in the night. Now, see, people think this stuff happened the day later. Do you realize that while they were eating the meal, Yahweh was doing the deal? While they were eating the meal, Yahweh was doing the deal that he promised.
That's right.
So they're eating and listening to the dying and the bleeding of different animals. They're listening to the crying of Egypt and this pain that's going through all of Egypt because one person in every house was dead. Wow.
Wow.
Now, this is at midnight, y'all. So while they're eating, this is why I tell you, he will prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. Help me, Ruach. Help me, Ruach. Help me, Ruach. Help me, Ruach. While you're yet eating, Minister Jackie, I told you it's going to get deeper. While you're yet eating, Yahweh is going to be killing your enemy at the same time you're eating. Y'all want to talk to me, nobody, did you? Mm-hmm. And in the killing of your enemy, he's going to be taking back what was supposed to be yours anyway. Now watch this. Somebody say late in the midnight hour. So now listen, and Pharaoh rose up in the night, not the next morning. See, nobody realizes that all of this took place within 12 hours. Listen, this is what it means that Yahweh is going to do a great work. He's going to do a quick work, and then he's going to cut it short in righteousness.
That's it.
Wow. Hallelujah.
Pay attention. Watch the transfer. Watch the transfer. The wealth of the wicked, as we like to say, and I will paraphrase, is laid up for the just. Watch this. So in verse 29, he says, at midnight, Yahweh passed through, he smote. Yahweh did it. Verse 30, Pharaoh rose up in that night, he and all of his servants, everybody, every Egyptian. And there was a great cry. Verse 31 says, he then called for Moshe and Aaron by when, y'all?
Night.
So it's still dark, right?
Yes.
It's still dark, right?
Right.
Yes.
Now, I need your participation. I told y'all to remember something about the fact that they could not leave their house until morning. But Pharaoh called for Moshe and Aaron by night.
Wow.
Now, would Moshe and Aaron ever disobey Elohim's word?
No.
Uh-huh. But don't you check his leaders when he makes a move. Sit your butts down. Yahweh then tells Aaron and Moshe by Pharaoh's voice, come here. Watch this. Rise up. When y'all see that word rise up, this is the resurrection. Help me, Ruach. And he tells him, and he tells them, rise up and get forth. Find yourself a neighbor in your mind that's sitting in this platform on this room right now, and just say to your neighbor, get off microphone and say, rise up and go forth. Come on, somebody say, rise up and go forth. He tells them, rise up and go forth. When did Pharaoh call for Moshe and Aaron, y'all? Verse 31, look at it. Was it morning yet?
No.
But was the leader and the high priest called to come out?
Yes.
So they were not in that space until morning, were they? Now watch this, because this gets deep. So in darkness, Yahweh makes his moves. He's about to change some things. Y'all gonna learn this today. Stop thinking you know something when you don't. Listen. He tells them and he says, rise up, come forth, you and everybody with you, get your bags, get your grip, get out. I know I said leave your flocks before, but I don't want nothing you got. Get out. Some of y'all need to be kicking stuff out your life and people right now. You're in a new year. It's okay to let folk go. Tell them to go ahead, kick rocks up the road. It's time for you to move on.
Yes,
Bye.
yes. Amen.
He said, take your flocks, take your herds, and do what you said you was going to go do, and go and be gone and serve Yahweh as you said you was going to go do. Because right now, I can't take no more loss. And he says, would you do me a favor and bless me also? Verse 33 says, the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. You ever got to that point where you're making decisions in haste and you just give up whatever? Just here, take whatever you want and go. Somebody say that's favor.
That's
Are y'all liking this so far? Because I got a long way to go. Are y'all liking this so far? Are y'all learning anything? Now watch this. Let's look at what the Rit says. Look what the Rit says. Look what the Torah says. The Egyptians, verse 33, they were urgent upon the people, get out. And the people took their dough before they even got their leaven. They took their kneading trowels, being bound up on their clothes and upon their shoulders. Now, they didn't leave until morning because Moshe had to go to Pharaoh at night, get the instructions. So in the morning, because they couldn't come out until morning, then he could tell the children of Israel, prepare yourselves. Watch this, because otherwise Yahweh would lie. He said the 15th is the day I brought you and your armies out. So they were still in the 14th because they ate the lamb at 14 at sundown. In the midnight, Yahweh smote the land. He calls Pharaoh. Pharaoh calls Moshe and them somewhere in the AM while it's still dark. And then when it becomes light, he tells the children, y'all, we've just been set free. Go now and collect. The Egyptians are waiting to give y'all gifts. They waiting to give y'all money. They waiting to give y'all clothes. They're giving you whatever you need to get the heck out. Now it takes them 12 hours or so to go get all this loot. That's why they had to be dressed in haste. That's why they had to have their staff in their hand. That's why they had to have their shoes on their feet. That's why they had to have their clothes on their back. Y'all gonna act like y'all have finally learned something. So now what happens is when Yahweh moves, you need to be in place. Some of y'all moving too daggone fast. And let me say this, too damnable fast. That when Yahweh finally makes a shift, you are not in place. They got to go find you to get you back in place to catch up with the herd. And now you've missed the cloud and everything. Now, let me get back to the point. Yahweh says to them, look, dress this way, be with your staff in your hand, because when I make a call, you got to move. And they had to move quickly to go get that money. Somebody say, I'm be about my money. Somebody say, run me my money. Somebody say, run me my money, run me. And so they went to get what was due them. Watch this. And then by the time they got everything together, it was the 15th when they were leaving. See, all that work was done on the 14th. Somebody say the 14th was my freedom day. 14th was my declaration of freedoms. Are y'all learning anything today? Now listen to this next part. Listen. Verse 35 says, and the children of Israel did according to the words of Moshe. They went and borrowed Egyptians jewels and silver and gold and raiment, and they gave them favor in the sight of the Egyptians. They gave them whatever they wanted. And they did what to the Egyptians, y'all? What's that word? Come on, I need everybody to say it. It's important. I don't hear enough of y'all saying it. I promise you, I need some unity on here today. Listen, so the word spoiled is a Hebrew word H5337. That word is the word natsal. That word means that it was something that was snatched away, whether in a good or a bad sense, but it is something that was also plucked from them, something that was without fail, something that was preserved, something that was for recovery, something that they rescued. There was a spoil, something they would take out. It was surely to be taken out. This is something that was taken, snatched away from them. You know why we say snatched away? Because if you snatch it from me, I'm still trying to hold on to it. It means something to me. It's of value. Y'all don't want to talk to me yet.
Hallelujah.
So one more time, I need y'all to come off mute and help me with this. What did the Israelis do to the Egyptians? They what? All right, cool. We'll come back to that later on. I hope y'all learning something. Minister Jackie, keep your cap on. Are you gonna be all right? Did she faint? Y'all check on Minister Jackie. I think she needs the Lord right now. She needs some help right now. Listen, you want to know what this is? Say this is in Pesach, y'all.
This is in Pesach.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. See, we're still talking about the blessing of Pesach. I haven't even dealt with you about the blessing of Chag Ha-Matzot. You're in the blessing of Pesach. Listen. In the 14th day, all of this was given to them. In one day, Yahweh shifted the economy of Egypt into Israel's hands, nomadic as a people.
Wow.
Hallelujah.
You still want to play with Pesach? You still don't want to proclaim what he can do in a day? I proclaim Pesach. Now, this is what he did. Now, listen. So your blessing is in Pesach somewhere. So let's go to Isaiah. Let's let Isaiah talk to us for a minute, the prophet of the Torah. Listen. Go to Isaiah chapter number 53. Are y'all with me there? Can y'all get there? Let me know when y'all get there. When y'all get there, say, run me my money. See, now y'all think I'm being petty. Y'all think I'm being crass. I'm just talking about what Yahweh did. Now, so for those of you who are like, well, what did we do during Pesach? I mean, we ate the lamb and why we got to give, a sacrifice for the lamb if we ain't sharing it and we're doing all this. And that's a great, great, great question. I got that like 5 times a day from people. And well, why do we have to do it? I need to explain it. Great. You're going to do fine. Just chill and listen. But I want you to show you something that Yahweh had been doing the entire time, which is why he says he wants you to proclaim his feast in its season, because each feast has a particular blessing associated to you. Each one is different. Once he frees you, he has to give you a place to live. He has to give you a place to go. Did you not know that even the United States of America prison system works on this principle? Once they bring you into custody, they strip everything you had. Doesn't matter how much it cost you. Doesn't matter whether it was a Rolex. Doesn't matter if it was a mink. Doesn't matter if it was a brooch of a diamond. Doesn't matter if it was a crown. Doesn't matter if you had $80,000 in your pocket. They stripped you, put it in an envelope, and supposedly preserved it for you when you finished your sentence. And then what they would do, because they kept you incarcerated so long and the things you had lost value while you were in, they would then give you another envelope with your final funds returned to you. And then they would give you an envelope that says, here is your parting sufficiency. Now, once that door closes, they give you an envelope because they dressed you before you left. You got all your stuff back on that you had when you left, or you put it in your bag. But they gave you another envelope for bus fare and food, maybe enough for a cheap rat hotel. But once you take this money, you out of here. Y'all gonna learn today. Listen.
Wow, never knew that.
Yeah, listen.
My goodness.
Listen. Are y'all learning something? Watch this. Stay with me. Stay close.
Yeah.
Stay close. This gets deep. So in Isaiah chapter 53, let's find your blessing of Pesach. What did they do to Egypt, y'all? All right, y'all heard it, because I got to share this with another group later on. Listen. Verse number 1. Isaiah 53. Look at it. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of Yahweh revealed? Yeshua shall grow up before him as a tender plant and as a root out of a dry ground. That dry ground is Israel. Verse 2. Yeshua has no form nor comeliness wherein they should see him. There is no beauty where they should desire him. He is despised, rejected of men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. We hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised. He was esteemed not. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Elohim, and afflicted. But the truth is, Yeshua was wounded for our transgression. Somebody say hallelujah. Thank you, Yeshua. He was wounded for our transgressions. Yeshua was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon Yeshua. And with Yeshua's stripes, we are healed. Verse 6, all we, every one of us, like sheep, have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way. And Yahweh has laid on Yeshua the iniquity of us all. Thank you, Yeshua. Verse 7 says, he, Yeshua, was oppressed. He, Yeshua, was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Yeshua was brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so Yeshua opened not his mouth. Didn't he do it? Yes, he did. Listen to the text now. Y'all pay attention, because don't get lost. This is where the enemy gonna try to get your attention. Don't let nothing distract you. Verse 8 says, Yeshua was taken from prison. He was taken from judgment. Who shall declare Yeshua's generation? Because he was cut off out of the land of the living, because of the transgression of my people. That's why he was stricken. Verse 9 says, Yeshua made his grave with the wicked and with the rich. In his death. Y'all missed that part. Because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in Yeshua's mouth. Here it is, y'all. Here it is, y'all. Here is your blessing. You better get your hands ready, get your mouth open, get your fingers greasy, because you're about to find out where your blessing lies. Yet, because of Pesach, yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise Yeshua. Yahweh put Yeshua to grief. And when he has made his soul an offering for sin, Yahweh shall see Yeshua, and Yahweh shall prolong Yeshua's days. And the pleasure of Yahweh, somebody say the pleasure of Yahweh. Y'all didn't, enough of y'all didn't say it. Enough of y'all didn't say it. Enough of y'all didn't say it. One more time. 1, 2, 3, go. Now listen, I'm going to reread it. And the pleasure of Yahweh. So the word pleasure, watch this. The word pleasure is the word Hebrew H2656. It's the word chafetz, pleasure, hence means desire, something valuable. Say a valuable thing, y'all, a valuable thing. Look at it, look at it, look at it, look at it. Listen, hence by extension as a matter, something in mind, something acceptable, something delightsome, something that is desired, something that is a desired matter. It is pleasant, has pleasanture, it has purpose, and it's willingly given. Listen to this, y'all. Somebody say the pleasure of Yahweh. Come on. Now I'm gonna read the verse so y'all can get it. Watch this. And the pleasure of Yahweh shall prosper in Yeshua's hand. Verse 11, watch this. He shall see the travail of Yeshua's soul, and Yahweh will be satisfied. Verse 11, by his knowledge shall my righteous servant Yeshua HaMashiach justify many. For Yeshua shall bear our iniquities. Look at verse 12. Here's your blessing, y'all. Let me see if y'all can catch it. Therefore, because of this, Yahweh says, I will divide Yeshua a portion with the great. Wait a minute. Let me see if y'all got it. Verse 12 again. Therefore, because of what he suffered in verse 11 and verses up to 1, he says, because he suffered all this, I'm going to divide him a portion like I did the other great patriarchs. And Yeshua shall divide the what?
Hallelujah.
With who though?
The strong. With the strong.
Because he hath poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, and he made intercession for the transgressor, meaning he took the transgressor's place. That's the epitome of intercession. Now he needs people who are strong like that to share this spoil with. I'm not talking about the intercessor prayer warrior band you got where y'all want to pray for the president over in some 15th world country and talking about God bless him, throw a bone, throw some air, throw some breath at him because you sitting in a place you want to make yourself spiritually deep. That's not intercession. He wants people who are strong, watch this, willing to die in spite of the options, because Yahweh's word says, willing to follow his word, I should say it this way, willing to follow his word unto death if that's where the word led him. Yeah, I'm gonna say it again. Willing to follow the word, even when the church you're in, after you've now got a new conviction about the word, tells you you crazy, you goofy, you should be insane, you should be institutionalized, and you need to have yourself decredentialed, and we're gonna take away your cross, we're gonna take away your collar, we're gonna take away your speaking engagements. When they tell you that you are literally going to be ostracized, you should follow his word to the point that you are willing to die for the purpose of resurrection by the word that brought you to death, because that same word will bring you to life. My God, help me today. I got to finish this. Now you're still asking, Apostle, where's my blessing? We still asking, where is my blessing? Watch this, Zion. I want y'all to pay attention. Where's my blessing? I don't see the blessing. I'm not seeing the blessing. Yes, you did. You missed it. He says in verse 10, I'm going to read it for you right now. Yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise Yeshua. He brought him to grief to make his soul an offering for sin. This is why the offerings, y'all, that we are supposed to render, it's not about the sin offering. You don't give the sin offering anymore. That's all he came to do away with. The other offerings are because there is a process of harvesting, because there is a need to sow. As long as the earth remains, there will always be seed time and harvest. Yahweh just removed the issue of redemption and the offerings for that by giving us the body of Yeshua, who this prophet is prophesying about to come. So he says he's going to see, verse this, watch this, and be pleased to have bruised him. The offering for sin, Yahweh is going to see his son, and he's going to prolong his days. Didn't he resurrect him from the dead?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So he prolonged his days, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
And the pleasure of Yahweh shall prosper in the hands of the person he prolonged the days of. And it goes on to say, watch this, and it goes on to say, skip down to past 11, go to verse 12. Because of that, I will divide Yeshua a portion with the great men of renown, and he shall divide the spoil that he has in his hand with those who are strong enough to, one, receive it and then bear it. Watch this. So let me ask y'all a question. Who are some of the strong patriarchs that we have of our Torah and our faith? Well, did Adam get a big portion? Yeah, he did. He got the dominion over the known world. Nobody was richer than Adam. Y'all don't like that, do y'all? Adam had everything. He had dominion. He blew it, though. Okay, so he had a great portion Yahweh gave him. Watch this. How about I don't know, let's just look at let's go to Abraham. Let's go to Noah. Did Noah get a big portion given to him? Yes, he did, because Noah got part 2 of what Adam lost. Noah now had a whole restart on the world. He had dominion. Watch, pay attention. What about Aaron? Abraham. Abraham clearly was one of the wealthiest men to ever walk this planet. He had whole nations worth of money in his pocket. What about Yitzhak? Yitzhak had it too. It was passed down to him. What about Jacob? Jacob had it too. It was passed down to him. Did they not have great amounts of wealth that they could literally create commonwealths no matter where they went?
Yes, they did.
Watch this. Was it in their hands?
Yes.
Did they decide who to give it to? Y'all gonna get this in a minute.
Yes, they did.
So let's talk about a young man we very seldom really talk about like we should. There's a man that was born from Israel, a man from Jacob's womb, from Israel's loins, whose name was Usef. Now, Usef is a very interesting character, and look at the connection between this prophecy of Isaiah, the manifestation of Yeshua, and the prophecy Yahweh gave in the book of Shemot. So Usef, does anybody know the reason why Israel ended up in Egypt? Well, let me tell you why. Because Usef, Israel's son, favorite son, watch this, Israel's favorite son, watch this, because the reason he was the favorite son is because Jacob, Israel, got tricked into marrying Leah. He wanted Raquel. So when he finally ends up doing everything that went down, Leah gives him his child first. And Jacob never wanted a child from Leah. He wanted Raquel. So to him, my first child isn't Reuben through Leah. My first child, ooh. Minister Walker, sit down, child. Sit down, Minister Walker. I know you just stood up. Sit down, Minister Walker. I know you stood up in your soul. Do y'all see that? So the first child that cracked the matrix of Raquel, 10 children later, in his mind is his firstborn. I told y'all, y'all gonna learn today. Y'all want to keep going all these other places and learn all this weird stuff. You go right ahead. Let's just stick to the writ. So what happens is Reuben, who is really, though he's going to be, he's Jacob's son, they all got ideals. Usef should not be getting all this kind of attention from dad like this. We older than him. He 10 children down the line. Somebody say 10, the number of government. Listen, let's move on, Ray. Let's move on. And see, once you got the government established, you need a leader for it. It gets deep, don't it? This is why you need to stick to Torah. Now watch this next point. So what Usef does is he trains just like the other brothers. But there will be times when Israel would pull him back, where he would send the boys to go do some shepherding, because they had massive wealth. Israel has the blessing of heaven on his life. He has the dew of heaven. Watch this. He has the heritage of Israel on him. Remember when Yahweh had Yitzhak put the dew of heaven on Jacob before he ran to Lebanon? Israel can make money out of nothing. Watch this, connected. He gave him a portion like he gave other great men. Oh, help me, Ruach. Help me, Ruach. Let me show y'all where y'all got to get the blessing plan. Now watch this. Let's keep this thing going. I want y'all to catch this. So Usef is now hated on by his brothers. And I can understand it. You can understand it, because Jacob did give him favor. And I think that I understand Jacob's giving him favor because he married Raquel. He wanted Raquel. He didn't want Leah. He got Leah. He got children, but he wanted Raquel. So that was the baby that mattered the most to him at that time. And then came Benjamin. Now watch. When Usef, in fact, now is being trained by dad pulls him aside and puts him under his wing and starts teaching him the business side of the actual business of the family, not just the practical side of being a shepherd and the horticulturalisms and the growing of the fields and the making of the lentils, because he did that really well. Remember, they called Jacob mama's boy, but he could hunt, he could kill, he could fight. But he was primarily in the house because Esau was the rambunctious one. He was the one that went out and hunted a lot. Now watch this. So Jacob did for Usef what was done for him when he sat under mom's arm, overseeing the management of his dad's funds. Y'all gonna get this in a minute. So while he's out there, Jacob is teaching him everything he knows. Israel is teaching him everything he knows. And then he would send him back out with the boys. And they're like, where you been? We've been out here all these days. Where you just getting here? Yeah, dad had me doing it. Man, we don't want to hear about that. Be quiet. Then one day he comes out with this coat of many colors. Help me, Ruach. I got to get this done. I got a couple minutes. Then he comes out with this coat of many colors. And they're like, why are you getting all this favor? Man, I'll punch you in your throat. They did not like this boy. But they needed this boy. Now listen to this. While Israel was teaching Yosef how to run the family business for the benefit of the family, the tribe, the nation, he was learning how to do this from his father. Nobody better. Then when he went to go check up on something, y'all remember this, people never do what you expect them to do. They only do what you inspect. Here's the problem with when you have to inspect what you expect. Those who are not doing what you expect because you inspect them will want to kill you. They put that boy in a hole, tried to kill him, couldn't kill him, and then decided to sell him off to some Ishmaelite traders. They sold off their business manager for the family, and they sold him for what? 30 pieces of silver.
Oh my. Oh my.
Oh, y'all thought that was deep. Wait a minute. Let's go back to the work of Isaiah. Look at Isaiah 53, verse number. Okay, watch this. Verse number 10. Watch this. Yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise him, put him to grief, offer his offer for sin, for offering for sin, and his seed shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of Yahweh shall prosper in his hands. The pleasure of Yahweh shall prosper in Yeshua's hands, who was put to death, resurrected. Y'all gonna get this. Who was beaten and bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him. And they hated him like Yosef was hated by his own brethren. Y'all gonna get this in a minute. Let it sink in. Help me, Ruach. This is the Shabbat of you. I know they're getting this. Listen, if y'all getting this, say hallelujah. Come on. So now back to why Israel is in Egypt in the first place. Yosef is sold off for 30 pieces of silver, dropped in a cave, picked up, snatched up, and arrested and put into the care of some Ishmaelite traders with a notorious reputation for just nefariousness. Now, watch this. This boy, Yosef, well-trained, well-versed, slave, royalty turned slave. He now is sold to Potiphar. Potiphar is a nobleman in Egypt. Y'all gonna get this in a minute. Watch. And here's your blessing. Here's your blessing. From now on, when you want to say amen to something I say, here's my blessing. Here's my blessing. Watch. Here's my empowerment. Here's my empowerment. Watch. Here's the catch. So when the Ishmaelite traders also trade him for cheap, Potiphar gets him. He's there but a few days, and all of a sudden his inventory is tight work. A few months, all of his other slaves are working and operating at a maximum proficient level in spite of their language differences. Potiphar is experiencing the greatest wealth he's ever had. Though he's had stuff, he's had position, he's had clout. Now he's got retention. Stuff ain't missing, stuff not miscounted. He knows exactly what he is. He knows what he does. Let me tell y'all something. Y'all gonna like this. Y'all not gonna like this. I know it's the Sabbath. I'm not trying to be petty. But you know what? When you have that kind of a skill set, Potiphar goes ahead and leaves, and he could leave his entire estate in the hands of another slave, though that slave had a taskmaster over him. And here's the catch. Yosef had that house running like he had daddy's house. Pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention. He had Potiphar's house, a stranger, somebody who don't deserve him, and got him for the low dirt price, cheap price of slave trade. Listen, he got Potiphar now looking prominent like a royal diadem in the kingdom of Egypt. And so much so that his wife was like, buddy, he can get this. That's what she said. He can get it. That's what she said to him. He can get it. I'm sorry. Y'all think I'm being carnal. Yeah, she was like, he can get it. Soon as Potiphar flew out of town, she went up to old boy and was like, hey, all right, come here. Big daddy's gone. I'm here. Come here. Ma'am, I can't do that. Come here. Any slave will be proud and honored to come here. You're my servant. Come here. No, he runs for his life. Run, Forrest, run. He gets out of there. And she is so embarrassed that someone turned her down. I'm getting some downloads I can't let come out right now. I'll talk about them later. She is so embarrassed. She is so thrilled that he turned her down. She is fire. She is pomegranate oiled up. She is, she got all the necessary, she all the equivalents. She got everything, the mud bath and the tea, everything. And she is turned down on moral because Jacob taught Yosef what Yahweh's word said and how to operate. And he would never do what she was asking to be done, though it may have been common where she was from. He says, I can't do it. I don't care what they do. I can't do it. Watch this. She then gets him, though Potiphar knew he couldn't trust this chick, his wife. By protocol of Egypt, he had to throw his best ever, most wealthy asset he got for the low dirt price into prison. Now watch this so y'all don't think I'm just giving y'all stories. Somebody say we talking Torah. There goes my empowerment. Listen, he goes on now and he leaves the employment of Potiphar. He's put into prison. By the time he's in prison, he got the prison rocking with efficiency. Now you got the inmates running the asylum. Now you got Yosef running the prison, a prisoner running the prison. The warden can sleep at night. They're getting efficiencies. Pharaoh's getting rocks made like nobody's business. New stuff is being cut. He has the whole place hopping. He got everybody getting meals on time. Everybody getting fair punishment when they mess up. Everybody learning how to do what they do. He's doing the educating system in the prison. He is the man. He is like the general under the general. And yet he is in prison. And then some years later, look at the anointing on the man. Look at the empowerment on the man. Look at the blessing on the man. Look at the plan of Yahweh on the man. He now has taken his dad's house, was running it well. He done went to Potiphar's house, made it excel. He done went to a prison, made it excel. And now he is there for some years, pretty much content, realizing his family has let him go, but he is never going to give his back on Elohim. He stuck to his morals and it got him in jail. Help me, Ruach. And now there are some dignitaries. You never know what Yahweh is going to do in the midnight hour. I told y'all earlier, the midnight hour, he going to turn it around. They had to have a dream at night. They had to have a dream at night. It was in midnight they had those dreams. They was not, I can't say it was at midnight, but we can know that they were dreaming. So the dream, you had to be in REM, and in prison you went to bed when they sit with the prison. So we can sort of kind of put it around the idea that in the midnight hour, God turned it around. Watch this closely. So when they woke up from their dream, they were bothered and puzzled at breakfast. And one of them got indignant and they said, listen, we had a dream. And he listened to the dream and he didn't mean to listen. He just listened. It was listening while they were talking to each other because they were dignitaries from Pharaoh's house. They were in a very precarious situation. And then he interprets their dreams immaculately. They now end up where they were dreams led them. One man would be killed in 3 days. One man would be freed and exonerated in 3 days. He leaves that place happy he met that under warden in the prison. And then he goes and returns to serving the Pharaoh on his right hand with his wines. Years later, still running the prisons, Pharaoh has a dream himself, can't interpret it. His viziers, his witches, his sorcerers, his spiritual guidance can't interpret the dream, making up lies, and Pharaoh's vexed with them. And then the cupbearer says, Mr. Pharaoh, sir, remember when you strange thing, remember when you had me in jail with the butler? Remember the butler, the baker? And so what happened with that was, while we were in prison, let me say this to you privately because the sources will probably try to spike my drink next time. Listen, there was a Hebrew in the prisons. You remember how you arrested me? Yes, me. You arrested me. I know it's been a long time, but you arrested me. And remember the baker? You beheaded him. We both had dreams. This guy in prison read our dreams back to us, interpreted our dreams, and he told the butler that he told the baker, in 3 days you're going to be dead, and you cut his head off in 3 days. And then he told me your dream meant that in 3 days you're going to be released and put back and restored to your previous position. Mr. Pharaoh, I think you might want to consider that. Pharaoh says, bring me this Hebrew. Somebody say, late in the midnight hour. Y'all know I got to hurry up because y'all think I'm there. I'm not done yet. I got a few more minutes and I'm going to be running late on my next program. But listen to this very closely. Watch this. Watch this. Watch. Are y'all learning? Are y'all learning? Listen. Listen. So now Usef is demanded to come to see Pharaoh. Watch this. Usef is demanded to come see Pharaoh. And look what he does now. When he gets up there to come and see Pharaoh, what takes place next is that when he gets there, Pharaoh gives him the dream. He interprets the dream for Pharaoh. He lets Pharaoh know what's good. He lets Pharaoh know what's hot. He lets Pharaoh know what's happening. Pharaoh tells the dream. Once he gets the dream, he then gets interpretation. And Pharaoh says, you know what? Based on your reputation, I want everybody to take the invitations to come up, please. There's a reason why. Everybody take the invitation to come up. Come up in the room. Come up in the room. If you're here for the lifestyle, come up in the room. If you're here for the lifestyle, come up in the room. All right, take your microphones. If not, if you don't take a microphone, go ahead and step on to the next room and go have a great day. But take the invitations I'm sending you, please, if you're here for the lifestyle, all right? Now, watch this, what he does. When Pharaoh now hears this, and Pharaoh gives him the dream, he interprets the dream and tells him how this goes. The mass amount of responsibility that goes with this dream is huge. Pharaoh says, I've heard about you, Mr. Joseph, man. Mr. Usef. Potiphar, one of my best men, tells me you turned this house completely around. Please mute your microphones. Everybody mute your microphone, please. He says, and then I'm hearing in the prisons that I've never had as much efficiency and proficiency out of my prisons and my prison guards, and they love you. And you're telling me that there's going to be 7 years of famine and 7 years of plenty, and we have to devise a strategy to get this ready? I don't think there's any better man that can do that than you. I can't trust these little politicians next to me. All of them just want to be my yes men and tell me lies about the dream I just gave you. You stop looking at me before I throw you in jail. Go look the other way. So back to you, Mr. Joseph, man. Listen, I can't trust none of these clowns. I don't even know you, but your reputation precedes you. So right now, I'm making a right on the moment. Somebody say Yahweh can turn it around just like that. He says, this task is monumental. It will be the life and death of Egypt. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put you over this monumental task. Not even Potiphar, who I do trust. But when Potiphar tells me what you did with his house, and I know how nasty and trifling him and his wife is, I'm sorry. If you can turn that house around, clearly you can. So anyway, Potiphar, listen, he says, Usef, I want you to take this charge. Now, I want y'all to stay with me because we're still in Isaiah chapter number 10, right? Chapter 53, verse 10. Y'all stay there. Don't leave it. He says, Potiphar, he says, Usef, I'm going to put you over this. From this day forward, your name will be called Zaphenath-Paneah. There is nothing in this land of Egypt that will have more power over you than this throne. Not my wife. That means the queen ain't more powerful. Did y'all hear me? Not even the queen is more powerful than Zaphenath-Paneah. Now, in those 7 years, here's why I wanted y'all to get this to understand. This is why I love Shabbat. And we'll talk more about it as we study during the course of this week, because we got a lot of services to do because of the actual Moedim. But listen, y'all want to talk more about this later? Because it's going to be real. I got some really good stuff here. Say, there goes my empowerment. Here comes my empowerment. Say it. So Zaphenath-Paneah, who is Usef. Usef has now been 20 years from his brothers, 20 years from his family, basically a prince in Israel, in his father's camp, murdered by his own people. Sound familiar? Resurrected from that death. Y'all sound familiar? Y'all didn't hear it. Y'all didn't hear it. Y'all didn't hear it. He was the prince in Israel, murdered by his brothers, born to be the leader, murdered by his brothers who felt they should be the leader because they were older and they figured they knew what they was doing. They murder him. He resurrects and becomes the prince of Egypt.
Oh, come on.
Can we talk Pesach? Can we talk Pesach? Now listen, here's where it gets deep. I gotta go, y'all. I got a whole nother class to teach. Listen. So when this happens, Usef now has taken Pharaoh, who is the wealthiest nation on the planet at that time. They are about to go through 7 years of good and 7 years of bad. This is over 20 years, because 7 years of good and then 7 years of bad, that's 14, right?
Yes.
He's been in prison longer than that.
Yes, he has.
He was in Potter's house for some amount of years.
Yes, he was.
So this is over 20 years. He ain't seen his brothers. And now he has taken on for at least the last 14, 16 years, last 20 years. He is now technically deeply ingrained in the Egyptian lifestyle, the face painting for the men, the hair dress, the royalty dress, his diplomacy, his ambassadorship. All of this is what this man is now engaged and engulfed in. He's enveloped completely. Now, I've slowed the story down to get you back to understanding about your blessing from Pesach before you thought you didn't do anything and get anything, and your little lamb you gave is just no big thing to Elohim. Y'all don't get twisted. Somebody shout, pay attention.
Pay attention.
Usef now has Egypt in his hand. He builds silos, gathers grain for 7 years. When the dearth comes, he begins to sell off the grain for meats. Ultimately, for so many years, this dearth is going on. This dearth went on for years, y'all. Do y'all hear me? It went on for a while. It got to the point, here's the beautiful part. Now, Israel and the other 10, 11 boys, they cut from the same cloth Usef is cut from. So they're nomadic already. They know how to make it through a dearth. They know how to collect, and everything Usef learned from Daddy Israel, he's doing for Master Pharaoh. So when the rest of the world who don't know what Usef knows as a herdsman, who knows how to live off the ground, who has the blessing and dew of heaven on his life, whoo, my God, they are out there, they're faring well, while the rest of the people, watch this, to get grain just to keep their families alive, had to sell their farms to Pharaoh, had to sell their children to Pharaoh, had to sell whatever other trinketries that they had to Pharaoh. They had a business, they were made to keep running the business, but now Pharaoh owns 70% of the business, just so they can get grain to live and keep their families. By the time Usef was done, Pharaoh was the richest man on the planet. He literally, not just because he was Pharaoh and in charge, he literally owned the people, the cattle, and the dirt in Egypt.
Wow.
Usef did that. Watch. So when Usef does this, Pharaoh is the richest man. Nobody higher than Pharaoh. Nobody higher than Usef but Pharaoh. Pharaoh then at the end of this realizes, or Israel coming to the end of the dearth, it's just about to come out. They're not far from coming out, but Israel fared well. So now they found out, hey, we're hearing about this for some time now, that this guy over there in Egypt, he's got some grain and we're out of grain, Pop. We did everything we can do. We can't do no more. Pop's like, yeah, you're right. Go ahead, take some silver. They got money. Take some silver, take some stuff and go over there and get with the procurator and bring us back some grain. When he gets there, they can't recognize Usef because he is now in Egyptian attire. He is now Egyptian royalty, and they don't know this boy no more. It's been, what, over 20 years. He sees them. He knows them because he's dreamed about them days and days and nights. And so when they finally get there, he treats them right. Then he gives them a little bit of a problem just to make sure that they, you know, just a little payback. But then when it's all over, they kiss, they make up. Usef finds out that daddy's alive. Usef runs to Pharaoh and says, Pharaoh, listen, those guys I brought up here before, those are my brothers, and my dad is still alive. You heard me talk about my dad. Yeah, you always talk about your dad. That's how this place got so big, because of what your dad taught you. You have listened and obeyed your dad's instructions. That's how you've prospered. Ha! Yeah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have got excited. I shouldn't have got ahead of y'all. He says, you've learned, you've done everything your father taught you. That's why you're prosperous. That's why we prosper. What you want? He said, listen, when my dad is still alive and before his last years, I want to spend as much time with him as I can. And he says, well, them boys, you need me to put them boys in jail? Like, no. We've made up. We good. All right, cool. He said, well, listen, you know, wherever you think you should go, you are Zaphanath Paneah. He says, cool. Well, they love to herd there. Y'all do? Because we don't like herding. We Egyptians can't stand it. It's the worst daggone job. I say, I know. We love it. So y'all revel in that? Say, yeah, we do. Cool. Then this is a win-win. Y'all go take that land of Goshen. And the reason Goshen is so nice over there is because that's where we put all the animals at. They graze out there. They fertilize the ground out there. There's water out there, good water. That's why it's so beautiful out there. But we don't like going out there. But if y'all like that, y'all just make sure that my cattle is good and y'all can stay there. You Zaphanath Paneah. So that's how they got to Egypt.
Wow.
And they came in with loot. They came in with enough money that, you know, Egypt could look at them like another nation. So they went into that place loyal to the process. They've been given an opportunity to do what they do well, and their herds and cattle under the government of the blessing on Israel would still strive and thrive. And then they just blessed Pharaoh. But then that Pharaoh died. Israel died. Usef died. A Pharaoh died again. Another Pharaoh died. I think 3 Pharaohs died. And then by the third Pharaoh, there was a Pharaoh that did not recognize the contribution of Israel.
Come on, preacher.
And they put them and said, they're growing too well over there in that nice land of Goshen. Yeah, they give us good cattle. They got good locks, good stuff. But look, we got enemies on that side. On the other side of where they are, if they ever linked up with our enemies, that would be 1 million people that would be fighting with them from within us to destroy us. We paranoid as all get out, lock them boys down, take what they got. Y'all don't realize that, do y'all? They took what the Israelis had and made them subservient. Fulfilling prophecy that for 400 years they would be in slavery. Oh, you're learning more than you're paying for. But watch this. Watch this. We're talking about Isaiah 53, the prophecy of Isaiah 53 about the fact that they would have the pleasure of Yahweh would be in Yeshua's hand. Let me show you how this looks because of Pesach. So now 435 years later, Israel is in bondage to a nasty taskmaster. Now read the text. Read the text. I'm gonna come back to Isaiah, but I want y'all to go with me to Exodus chapter number 12. I'm gonna give it to y'all. We because this is all we do on the Sabbath. We read the Torah. That's what we do on the Shabbat. We read the Torah. Look at Exodus 12. Look at it. Look at Exodus 12. Look at what he said to do. Come with me down to verse number 36. Now, we know that while we're here in this passage, we're talking about the Egyptians. So now they have 435 years later, Moshe then showed up. He is the deliverer, right? Promised, as prophesied. He shows up, let my people go. They go through this whole thing. Yahweh has annihilated every demigod Egypt has ever forced on the Israelis. See, some of y'all were forced to serve demigods before you had a chance to be anything. And that's what Yahweh came to kill when he sent the blood. Hallelujah. And he sent the lamb to heal you. See, and now that's what Pesach is about. Y'all want to act like it's just about some cross and the tomb rolling away. You get caught up in that if you want to. None of that happens. None of that catches your eye. None of that glitters to you like gold unless you understand why he's in that tomb, why he went to that cross. So when this thing happens, they are then given this demonstration by Yahweh that I am Yahweh. I'm not to be played with. I knock all these buddies out the park. All 10 demigods were knocked out of the play. Then he says to Pharaoh, the last demigod, Yahweh lets him know to let the people go. He kills the firstborn of each man and beast. Israel is now eating the Pesach meal. See, this Pesach meal that night, that 24 hours, redeemed the entire 435 years. Listen, let me come off of this real quick. Listen, I want y'all to catch this. I know this might be boring to some of y'all. Like, get to the point, man. Listen. When Yahweh told Pharaoh, or Pharaoh told Moshe, get out, look at what he told him to do in verse number 29. Verse 33, the Egyptians were urgent of the people that they might send them out in the land with haste. Verse number 36, Yahweh gave people favor. Let me put it on the board so y'all can see it. Yahweh gave the people of Israel favor amongst the Egyptians in the sight of the Egyptians, so that the Egyptians lent the Israelis as much as they needed. And they what? Spoiled. Now, what did they take? Let me show you how deep Yahweh is. When y'all hear it, say, here comes my empowerment. Wahakabosha. Listen. So Usef resurrected in Egypt. And everything Egypt now has is because of Usef, a Hebrew, 400 years ago. Talk about reciprocity. Talk about reparations. Y'all gonna get this in a minute. Y'all listen. Yahweh set the money and sent the money before Israel would need to get out. He already sent it into Egypt and had it drawing interest, because Pharaoh was a bad boy in the region when Moshe was there. They were still the richest and most powerful nation in that region, if not the planet known at that time. And Yahweh plundered them. Now, the truth is, they only left with what they came with. They just didn't know what they came with because they were born into slavery. But when they came in free, they came in with loot. And Pharaoh received what he had because of a Hebrew boy that was their granddaddy.
Yes.
Here comes my empowerment.
Here goes my empowerment.
Now, like Usef, when Pharaoh said, this problem we have, I'm putting you over it. Help me, Ruach. This power, this problem we have in Egypt, little Hebrew boy from jail, from Potiphar's house, from some weird nomadic man out in the wilderness, you, sir, are going to be over that. So I'm putting my pleasure in your hand, and you dole out to the people who gets what? Help me, Ruach. This is what Yahweh gave you a type of when he says to us in Isaiah 53. Look, y'all, he already showed y'all what he's going to do. We just never connected it. Look at verse 10. Yet it pleased Yahweh to bruise him, make his soul an offering for sin. He'll see his seed prolong his days, and the pleasure of Yahweh, all the wealth of Yahweh, is put in Yeshua's hand. And Yeshua, verse 12, will divide that spoil the same way Usef did with those who were strong, those who were integral, those who were faithful, and he will dispatch that.
Here comes my empowerment.
All right.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Yes. Here comes my empowerment.
Verse 12. Therefore, Yahweh says, I will divide him a portion. like I did the other great patriarchs. And Yeshua shall divide that spoil that I break him off with the strong who are like him, who obeyed my word unto death, like Usef obeyed his father's word to death. Do y'all see the correlation? Do y'all see the parallel?
Yes.
Can you feel it? I'm trying to help somebody today.
Hallelujah.
Come on.
Take
So-
your time, man. Come on.
So the fact that you have complied, somebody say, I'm strong. I want to scream for some of y'all because y'all have no idea what Yahweh is about to do to you. That's why when you comply with what Yahweh says, watch this, repeat after me, say to obey is better than sacrifice. 1, 2, 3. To obey. Usef obeyed his father's instructions and ran from that woman based on how he was raised. It was better than the sacrifice. He knew he could have got that. He could have got that good easy and nobody would have said nothing. He could have literally, do y'all realize that he could have taken over Potiphar's house?
Wow. Yes,
Y'all not talking to me.
Yes.
If she slid in his DMs like that, he could have took over Potiphar's house and left Potiphar like a figurehead. Y'all not talking to me. Y'all so deep. Y'all so deep. Okay, maybe I don't like that. Maybe y'all might think that too carnal. But watch this. Look at this. Even Yeshua could have left us hanging. Because when he was on the mountain being tempted, he could have took Satan's offer that everything up here that you see, I'll give to you if you bow down. See, to obey Yahweh is better than sacrifice. I hope y'all can get this a whole lot better. Are y'all really learning or y'all think I'm just trying to find something to talk about? So now what happens next is in order for you and I to receive what Usef had on his life, wherever that boy went was blessed, wasn't it? Watch this. And if you want to have what Yeshua had on his life, wherever that man went, he was blessed, wasn't he? That's why in Isaiah 58, 5 chapters from 53, he says, if you honor the Shabbat, if you won't do your own thing, if you'll call it a delight, if you call it holy, if you call it honorable, and honor me by not doing your own thing, but keeping the Father's words and prescriptions, I will see you as delighting in me, and I will cause you to ride upon the high places of the earth. Did Yahweh put Usef up there? Yes, he did. Did Yahweh put Yeshua in the right hand of the Father? Oh my goodness. Y'all didn't get that. I'm gonna say it again because y'all was happy about it because I got a little bit excited. But let me say it again. I don't think you got it. Just mute for a second. And if you really get it, come off mute and say, I got it. Listen. He says, if you honor me by not doing your own thing on my holy day, but not speaking your own words on my holy day, then I will see you as Yahweh, the I am that I am. Whatever you need, I'll do. He says, I will see you as delighting in me. For if you delight in Yahweh, he will give you the desires of your heart. When he sees you delighting in him, he will cause you to ride upon the high places of the earth. There won't be any glass ceilings. There won't be any kissing black rings. There won't be any rubbing any hearts and shoulders, people trying to hobnob around to get ahead and cheat and steal and everything. He says, I will personally ride you upon the high places of the earth, and I will feed you. Watch this, with what I put on Jacob. If you comply with my instructions. Now, did not Usef ride upon the high places of the land because he obeyed his father? Next question. Did not Yeshua now ride upon the high places of the land because he obeyed the Father's instructions? You don't believe me? Just go to Listen. Just go to Ephesians chapter number 1 and read down around the 18th and the 20 verses and write what he says, that Yeshua now sits in the highest seat in the land.
Yes, sir.
Everything is beneath him. Did not Yahweh keep his promise? If he's done it for them, he says he'll do it for you, but it requires what they sacrifice, and that would be obedience to his compliance, obedience to his instructions, obedience to his prescriptions. We got to live this thing right. If he wants that lamb, I'm giving him that lamb. He wants that bull, I'm giving him that bull. He wants a lamb every day, I'm giving him that lamb every day, because what they got is a whole lot more than a couple lambs. I don't think, see, as soon as it shifts to what's got to be done and what it looks like, we think it's all about some kind of hocus pocus church grab. It's not. This has got nothing to do with money. This has everything to do with authority. Tell your neighbor, say, listen, stop selling out.
Stop selling out.
Stop selling out.
So today, you are in the 15th day of Nisan. Yahweh wants a lamb per responsible adult. He wants a lamb per responsible adult. One lamb, as you already know, is monetized out in this season as $330 USD. Now, that's the low end of it. We're not fighting about that. This ain't no sales pitch. Right now, you need to go to vwjministries.com, or if your ministry is connected to this ministry and they actually keep the feast and they're doing whatever it is, you pastors and leaders, you know what you need to do. You have to go upwards. So what I want you to make sure you do is get your lamb in today. Get it in now. Here's the thing. Don't think, well, I'm going to give it to just anybody I want. You can't, because if they don't believe in it, they don't understand the blessing at the end of Chag Ha-Matzot, that we pray over the blessing for your obedience. And it's not that they don't know it and can't learn it. I'll gladly teach it to them. But any person in any group will be, oh, yeah, go bring it here. Oh, yeah, surely. Look what the Lord has done. But they will never be able because they don't literally believe in it. Oh, they like the idea that that's a new way of something. But you got to understand, this is a lifestyle. This ain't a game. Stop selling out. If you want to see how Yahweh can make you look like Usef, or how Yahweh can make you look like Yeshua, you got to do what they did. Somebody shout compliance.
Compliance.
So today, go to vwjministries.com. Hit that yellow button at the lower right-hand side of the screen. Get your contribution in. If you're on Clubhouse, go to my profile, hit my PTR, go to my profile at the bottom, make your contribution on that tab that's there. If you know you do Zelle, you get your tithing in here by Zelle or by Cash App. If you know that information, make sure you use it. Your Cash App is right there at VWJ3657. You got every other means, get it in. We don't harp on this. We don't want your money. We just teach you what Yahweh says you do. This comes from his word. Now, what's important, y'all, is compliance. Compliance by faith. Make that a quote. I need somebody on YouTube. I don't know who's out there. Write this down, and make it in all bold letters. Compliance by faith. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, and for those of you who've been with me long enough to know what that means, faith comes by hearing. Hearing comes by the word of Elohim. What did Usef do? He kept his father's words. What did Yeshua do? He kept his father's word to show us that Yahweh's promises of causing us to ride on the high places and being able to be catered by him with the same thing he put on Usef, same thing he put on Israel, same thing he put on Isaac, same thing he put on Abraham. Yahweh just needs us to comply, both in our morality and in our obedience to his prescriptions on what to give. That's why he told Israel, listen, don't come before me empty on these 3 feast seasons. Do not come before me empty. As long as the earth remains, there will be seed time, my feasts, and harvests, my feasts. So in the feast, you are both sowing and reaping. How you reap is what Yahweh does. But Yeshua, who sits high and looks low and is looking over you, he doles out the elements of his prosperity and Yahweh's pleasure from his hand for those he can say, yeah, daddy, they've been obedient. Yeah, daddy, they kept compliance. Yeah, daddy, they did it. Yahweh, yep, they're good. Look at her, Yahweh, she's doing it. Look, that's just like the widow with the mite. She ain't have it all, but she brought the 2 mites she did have because she knew it was your word to do it. She gave her best. Yahweh, and there he is over there. Look, he's done it again. He brought a lamb every day. That joker bought a bull this time. Look at him. All right. Listen, Yahweh, they're doing it too. Okay, Father. And then Yahweh says, it is good for the brethren of this faith to dwell together in unity. For there Yahweh commands the blessing, even life evermore. Somebody shout, here comes my empowerment.
Here comes my power.
I got to let y'all go. I got to get teaching somewhere else. Listen, if y'all want some more of this, if y'all want to hear it again so y'all can get it another time, I'll be tuning in about another at somewhere around 10 o'clock for the West Coast, Central Mountain Time and Pacific Mountain Time. And we're going to be coming in, bringing in the Sabbath with them because their time zone is now kicked in and it is now officially sundown for them in that time zone. Have you guys been blessed today?
Yes.
Without question.
Get your offering in, get your lamb in. And don't forget, tomorrow is first fruits. This one is crazy good. I promise you. The thing with the first fruits is that Yahweh will be expecting a lamb. He will expecting fine flour, fine wine, and fine oil. Now, you know the lamb is 330, but the other 3 items equal a total of 120. So the 330 plus the 120 for those 3 comes out to 450. He wants that, and we're going to read that tomorrow so you understand it. He wants that per your income streams. Because the first fruits is the first promise he told them after he gave them Pesach and unleavened bread. He said, as soon as you come into the place where I got you working and making income and getting your harvest, I want you to give me the first, not the tithe. I want you to give me the first fruits, both in the spring and in the summer, the barley harvest and the wheat harvest. And I'm going to make sure that those same grounds remain voluminous and in perpetuity. But you know, a lot of people get funny about giving what Yahweh says to give. Well, I ain't got that to give. The reason is he gives seed to the sower. And if you're not going to sow, he's not obligated to give you no more seed.
Come on.
Ouch. And I got people right now who've been with me for years and still saying, well, Apostle, you know, I ain't got it. You've been with me for 10 years and you still ain't gave it yet. Did it click yet? Did it click yet? He ain't giving seed if you're not sowing where he prescribes. I can't never seem to make it. Have you complied? Well, I couldn't because this came up in that. Well, who's first in your life? No, we're not talking that garbage you hear on pulpits and everything. Give you your rent, give you a mortgage. No. If you desire to make Yah's will your command, Yah's command your will, Yah will make a way. You're not going to miss your mortgage. He's going to give you that, but he's also going to leave behind him a blessing. See, the problem is when Yahweh did let you get your mortgage, get your rent, get your car notes, get your insurances paid, get your groceries in your house. When he did decide to leave a blessing behind, you thought it was a reward and started spending it because you felt you was in the overflow. And you know what? I need to splurge this time. No. You told him you wanted to keep his will. You told him you wanted to keep his way. And he dropped the blessing, Joel chapter 2. He dropped the blessing behind him to see if you would actually hold on to it and budget for the next feast so you wouldn't be naked and hand empty when that time came. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our mind. We're talking kingdom. Father, we thank you for the day. We thank you for your time. We thank you for these, your people who have joined and gathered here today. We're asking you to bless them as they comply. We pray, Yahweh, from Vietnam to South Africa, to Ghana, to Kenya, Father, to the UK, to Uganda, to Sri Lanka, Father, to Puerto Rico. Father, we thank you for the East Coast, and now we're about to go into the West Coast. Each one who complies with you, you see them. And when they render their offerings, Father, you see them like you did giving to the priests, and the priests put those offerings on the actual altar. You registered them as here. Bless, I pray you, as you've promised your people. Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh broke you off a portion like he did the greats, and he put his pleasure in your hands. And we love you and adore you. We thank Yahweh that you are the manager of our account. Thank you. You give us access. You are the Lord of glory. Now we get it. Give us access to glory where Yahweh can supply all our need. We are here with our offerings. I've given my lamb. I'm giving my bull. I'm giving my goats. I'm giving everything you've asked for. And I'm doing my best to live your word. You don't lie, Yahweh. Hear our cry. And we are in seed time you've prescribed. We look for the harvest you've designed. We don't want to do it our own way. We want to do it your way. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we pray and we say, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Now, let me get something straight here with you all, too, about one last matter before I get done. If y'all want to come back and hear some more of this later on, you can, but I got to make sure I get these things straight. I hear a lot of different doctrines out here today, and I know many of you are affected by many different ministries because of where you come from and your lifestyle and your lifetime. But many people said that Yeshua never ate the Pesach meal. Let me help you in case you're getting wind of some ignorant, immature, inaccurate, and completely non-biblical and definitely non-Torah concept. I had 5 people in my inbox asking, Apostle, I was over here at this place and I was over here at this church, and they're saying that he couldn't have possibly eaten the Passover meal. Well, let me just show you what the writ says in Matthew 26. Verse 17 says, now when the first day of the feast had come, look on your screen. I'm gonna let you go. I got to get going because I got another group waiting for me. And y'all can join that when we start up in the West Coast. But look what he says. Now the first day of the Feast of Unleavened came. Yeshua said, where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover meal? He said, go into the city. Y'all do hear the question, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, we do.
Where would you prefer we prepare for you so you can eat the Pesach meal? He said, go into the city and tell this man, such a man, that I said, the master said, my time is at hand. I will keep Pesach at your house with my disciples. Is he going to keep the Pesach at his house?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sound like he plans on eating, right? Verse 19 says, and the disciples did as Yeshua appointed them, and they made ready the Passover. Now, when even was come, he sat down with the 12. I can't get past these next 5 words. And as they did eat.
There it is. That part. That's it. Plain as day. The word. He ate
the Pesach meal. And then, as I told you before with Moshe, what did Pharaoh tell them to do at night? Did he summons Moshe and Aaron to come see him at night?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
After Yahweh commanded them not leave their homes once the blood was on the door until morning.
Yes.
So Moshe and Aaron left their homes before the morning light because Pharaoh called them at night. So an argument from one church house and some, I call it strange rogue doctrine, and I will say this because I can say this in love, and I want to talk with these 2 pastors as well as some others that I'm understanding, is that Yeshua ate the meal. He took the bread, he blessed it, he gave it. While they were eating, verse 26, while they were eating the meal, Yeshua took bread and blessed it, break it, and gave it to the disciples and said, take, eat. This is my body. Where does he not eat this? He eats it. Then, while it's still night, he goes to the Garden of Gethsemane. Why? Because he is the new high priest. He is also the king. Moshe was the king. Aaron was the high priest. He needed to go get instructions from the Father. And by him going there that night, if he's not there that night, in that place, in that space, Yahweh doesn't turn it around late in the night hour.
Hallelujah. Yes.
Now, when we teach this, I want you to understand this. I hope you guys have gone to VWJ Ministry and got your, y'all got your lamb in? If you got your lamb in, say, I complied. I'm compliant. I'm working on it. Listen closely. Immaturity in faith is based on two things: not knowing something and having a strong desire to be something. The two of those will make immaturity shine through any good and well-intentioned person. I've been teaching philosophically, theologically for decades. And I've dipped and abandoned much of what I learned theologically for the purpose of understanding Torah rightly. We don't know everything. But if it sits there screaming at you from the text, that means you have a hidden agenda. And in this season, Zion, I want y'all to remember this. It is okay to let things go.
That's right.
It's okay. And love. And don't do it in hate. Just let it go. You can't carry it and the gold he's bringing you out of your bondage with in this season. If you're struggling with them, you losing coins and jewels and rings and everything they give, because you fighting with them trying to save their life, and they want to be rebellious and don't want to learn, don't want to sit still, want to keep rocking the boat, turning the every time you get the wagon righted, they end the wagon, and as soon as we stop, they want to kick a hissy fit and throw a temper tantrum and knock the whole thing over. You lost this in the sand, you lost one thing back here, you lost something 20 miles back. Every so often they want to have a temper tantrum and kick over the boat. Zion, it's okay to let that go. They want to be that way, you do that over there, have a good life. It's okay to let go, as long as you are latching on to Yahweh's word. Now, a lot of church people who are very churchy will say, that's right, I'm let go. I'm going to latch on to his word. No, you latching onto his Bible and latching onto his word are two different things. And just because you speak loud and you speak fast and you speak like you know what you're talking about, once it gets confirmed in that word, you make sure you retract every word you've ever said. And I say that to all the ministers on this platform. I love every single solitary one of you. I want you all to be in his good stead. Here's why. Because there is an actual woe, a W-O-E, that is associated to any person who teaches people not to do what Elohim's word says. And that starts, you think this is no big thing? It starts with proclaiming inaccuracies. Don't be a proclaimer of inaccuracy and expect Yahweh to honor it.
Amen.
Amen.
So true.
And it's okay for you to call Cap rightly. You don't argue, you don't fight. Unfortunately, a couple of people did speak to these pastors and it went ugly for them. I got meetings with them lined up this week to talk with them and share with them what it is that proves that that is not true. And I hope, my brother, you're listening to me now. Yeshua did eat the meal and he did go outside. He went to the garden in the 14th. It was necessary. The rest of them, only the ones Yeshua brought with him went. And by that too, Udis is carrot. was up and walking around. And in the garden, they were not told to stay in the house. They had to stay in the house in Egypt because that night Yahweh was passing through with an actual judgment. Please stop trying to be deep and make yourself popular before you shipwreck people's lives trying to get a like. My recommendation during this Shabbat, get somewhere and sit down and know Yah's words. That's why we read the Torah the entire 7 days. It's going to be fun. Hope you guys tune in. I got to run. Get your lambs. Y'all can come back as soon as we start the PST room for Chag Ha-Matzot. I speak to you all. Enjoy these 24 hours. Don't let nothing distract you. But we say to you, Shemek Chag Ha-Matzot.
Let's talk kingdom. He's the one you can lean on. He don't change, he stays the same. Won't find a better reason, no. So come tap in, just listen. And bring a friend, let's spread this vision. Let's talk kingdom. He's the one you can